Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. It feels like fragrance prices are higher than ever. Like you're paying more, but getting less, while fragrance brands drop fragrances at a faster rate than ever before. Which raises the question, has buying fragrances become a scam in 2025? That's what we're gonna be taking a look at here today. Fragrance prices, they feel like they're going up, but are they actually? Is it actually just inflation? And if it's not just inflation, why are those prices going up? So I'm going to answer all of that in today's video and let you guys know what is actually happening right now as far as the price of fragrance. So just that we have a frame of reference, here are the inflation rates for the US from 2020 through 2025. So those rates right there are pulled from the CPI inflation calculator, and it shows you how much inflation has been. So if you go from 2020 to 2025, that's the rate. If you go from 2022 to 2025, now you're no longer factoring in 2020 or 2021's inflation, the rate is smaller. It's the cumulative inflation rate. So the first thing that we need to take a look at is fragrance prices. Is there an actual price creep that exceeds what inflation is? What I did is I pulled from my own orders from Macy's, Sephora, Ulta, Dillard's, retail prices. That way it's apples to apples. We'll get into discounter prices here in a second because discounters, it's not really the same thing as comparing retail price, the MSRP, because looking at the MSRP lets you know exactly how much you're going to have to pay if you walk into a store and try to pick those fragrances up yourself. And I will tell you, some of this stuff, kind of shocking. So here's a bunch of different fragrances from different brands. I'm gonna give you the price that I paid when they were new, the year that they were released, what they go for now, and how much they've changed, so you can see how much it's different from just inflation. First off, Bad Boy Cobalt. Super popular, really versatile, compliment puller, easy to wear. In 2022, I paid $110 US for a 100 ml size bottle. How much does it go for nowadays? As of this video, $147. The price has crept up $37 since it came out. Now, inflation in that time frame was 9.27%, if you take 2022 through today, 2025. But the price increase, 33.64%. What does that tell you? It tells you that they're not raising the price solely because of inflation. They're also raising the price to squeeze every dollar they can out of you, or me, or you, or you. That's not the only one either. The Most Wanted, when that dropped, talking about the original The Most Wanted, $98 is what I paid for it. That one was a little bit further ago, 2021, so the inflation rate has been higher from 2021 because there's that extra year of inflation. And that was actually a doozy for inflation, so 18.02% is the inflation rate for that one. But the price is now $130, almost 33% is the price increase there. 32.65% is the exact amount, but yeah, about 33. And you can find tons of fragrances that have similar increases to that. It is crazy. Here are some examples of what I paid for a bunch of different fragrances and what they go for now and how much of an increase that is. 2023, Paco Rabanne Phantom Parfum. I paid $122. It's now $154, a 26.23% increase. Inflation, 4.95. Just last year, Polo 67 Eau de Toilette, I paid about $92. Now it is $110, an increase of close to 20%, and the inflation in that time frame, 2.39. YSL Eau de Parfum Intense came out 2023 for $148, now it's $172. Increase of 16.22%, inflation 4.95. Armani Code Parfum 2022, $135, now $160, 18.52% increase, 9.27 is the inflation, and it goes on and on and on. You will find far fewer fragrances that actually have stayed under what inflation is. Actually, Ralph Lauren has a couple, both in the Ralph's Club line. Ralph's Club Elixir and Ralph's Club Parfum are both the same price today as when they came out. And Versace Eros Parfum that came out in 2021 was $139, now it is only $150. That is an increase of 7.91%, but inflation has been much higher than that amount, 18.02. So Eros Parfum actually has increased less than inflation. And even fragrances that came out in 2024 have gone up in price already. For example, Y Elixir has gone up by $10 since it was released last year, an increase of 5.56% in one single year. And of course, I say this all the time, but you can help combat inflation and raise prices just a teensy bit by using some of these codes when you do shop for fragrances. So Fragflex, the Perfume Box, Max Aroma, Gift Express, Maple Prime, JOMASHOP, all of these different stores. I have codes that you can use on those shops to save yourself a little additional money. It's not gonna help take out all of the sting about how much prices are going up, but it'll lower them a little bit, and every little bit counts. So use those codes when you shop to save yourself a little money if you are in the business of buying fragrances for yourself or somebody else or your mom. Your mom! So yeah, if you've been looking at fragrance prices over time and you've thought to yourself, man, that looks a little pricier than I remember, you're right, they have been going up. It's just this silent price creep that happens with designer fragrances and niche fragrances where nobody's announcing it, but they're just slowly ticking up over time. Although to be fair, brands like Creed and Xerjoff on the niche side will a lot of times announce their fragrance price increases, to be fair. So there are some hard numbers you can dig in yourself. Go ahead, look through your emails, find your receipts from fragrances that you bought years past, check the prices of what they're going for now. You can see yourself easily almost every single fragrance is more expensive, and the vast majority of them are outpacing inflation by a lot. The numbers do not lie. So why are the prices going up then? Obviously, inflation is part of it, raising prices to keep up with inflation. Although again, not every single brand is doing it hand over fist like some of the others are. When you start really digging in, you'll see that some brands are way more egregious than others. Because we are seeing with some of these fragrances, legitimate 30% increases in 2, maybe 3 years. Well, part of it is the positioning of fragrances now. A lot of these brands are trying to position more and more and more and more of their releases as luxury offerings. So these are now luxury lifestyle purchases. They're not just fragrances anymore. So what do I mean by luxury lifestyle positioning, higher end positioning? Well, obviously a lot of you have noticed how many different elixir fragrances there have been lately, or parfum editions, Le Parfum Absolu. You get the drift. It's easy for these brands to take an existing DNA that's already popular, make it a little bit different, 10% change here, 5% change there, go ahead and slap elixir on the front, and then the price shoots up. Same DNA, fancier name, maybe a higher concentration, price increases 30%. Suddenly you've got fragrances that maybe years back would have been 110, 115, going for 180. And one more thing that a lot of brands are doing, limited editions. They have also gone up in price. For example, Light Blue. When Light Blue Italian Love came out just in 2022, $86 was the price point, full retail. Now the new one, Light Blue Capri in Love, has come out, $154. Both of them light blue, limited edition, summer releases, huge difference in price. And you could say, well, yeah, but Light Blue Italian Love, that's an eau de toilette. Light Blue Forever was more expensive. That's true, but Light Blue Forever was, I think, 110. Still, 110, 154, pretty good difference. And there's also this fast drop cycle right now with fragrance brands where they're coming out with more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. And look, I love new releases. I get excited to try them out. I get excited to smell them, but they know that. And so they drop them in quick succession sometimes because they know people are gonna scoop them up real quick, full retail. And it would be more worth it if each one of these fragrances was really different, something interesting. And to be fair, a lot of them are, and a lot of them do smell fantastic. But going back to what I just said, a lot of these fragrances are tweaks, and then they slap a new name on it and they go, money please. And another reason that a lot of these prices are increasing, other than just making the profit margin higher, is the marketing. Fragrances have gotten more popular as time has gone on, more and more and more every single year, and with that comes increased marketing budgets. Increased marketing budgets means they want to make that money back more and then some, so the prices go up. You go back in the day and marketing was basically an occasional cheesy commercial, maybe a magazine spread. Nowadays, they market stuff everywhere. So a lot of that gets passed on to us when we go to buy a fragrance at Macy's or Sephora or shop online. Now you might say to yourself, well, yeah, there's that, but what about IFRA regulations, right? What about changing ingredient costs. And that could be part of it, but not a huge part. And we'll get to why here in just one second, but first, let's talk about discounters, because maybe none of this retail stuff matters to you because you shop at discounters. Which, to be fair, I shop at discounters too, unless it's like a brand new release. And all of you should be at this point because it's one way to save at least some money. But discounter prices are also going up, but not across the entire board. Here are some examples. Parfums de Marly Layton, 4.2 ounce size bottle. I bought a bottle back in 2017, and yes, that was a long time ago, I get it. But I paid just under $127 for that 4.2 ounce size bottle, and that was pretty much the going price back then. Nowadays at discounters for 4.2 ounce of Layton, assuming you're not getting a fake, you're lucky to find it at $175, maybe $200. A lot of places it's way more than that. Around the same time frame, I bought Amouage Lyric Man, $118. Nowadays, about $185. And you'll find that a lot of niche fragrances especially used to be much more affordable at discounters than they are nowadays. But it's not all bad. There are some fragrances at discounters nowadays that are actually cheaper than they used to be. Coach Platinum, for example, when I bought that one, it was $45 for a tester bottle. That's cheaper nowadays. Lacoste L'Homme Intense, I paid $50. It's cheaper than that nowadays. There are a lot of fragrances that you can find cheaper now than they used to be. But why are discounter prices rising compared to what they used to be? Because it used to be, that's the word of the day, take a shot every time I say it, sorry, you're dead, that fragrances were heavily discounted quite often at discounters. So you could get insane deals sometimes. And most of those insane, crazy deals, they're not there anymore. They're still very nice discounts, but it's not like it used to be. Sometimes you could find stuff for just dirt. They were giving it away. Well, it's because things have changed, and discounters a lot of times kind of anchor their prices to MSRP to an extent. And with retail hikes, retail prices going up, that means wholesaler prices are also going up. So distributors' prices have risen to follow up with the MSRP hike, which means that now everything is coming up in price. Discounters, gray market stores are paying more to stock the fragrances because distributors are charging more, brands are charging more. And so across the board, everything is rising and a lot of that gets passed on to you. And discounters don't ignore how popular a fragrance is. So if there's a new release that comes out, it's extremely popular and it's pretty expensive, then when they get that in, they know that they can just mark it down, $15 and they're going to sell and they're going to sell out. So they do. And there's one other thing that brands have been doing much more: niche and designer. They control their fragrance distribution more. So back before, what would happen a lot of times, especially with designers and as well niche brands, bigger niche brands especially, is they would keep the market essentially flooded. So they would flood the shelves everywhere and there would be overstock, and stores and distributors would dump that overstock to the gray market, who could then flip it really quickly for a great price. And there was so much to go around that it just kept happening. Now what's happened is a lot of brands have tightened up their production runs, so they're not flooding the market the same way that they used to. So they may do staggered runs where they'll run a fragrance and then they'll let it sell out, and then they'll go ahead and run it again and let it sell out. And you can actually see that with Jean Paul Gaultier, because they'll have fragrances like on their own website where it'll be out of stock for a while, and then after, who knows, a month, sometimes 2 months, maybe even longer, it'll come back in stock and they'll be like, oh, it's here again. And then they wait, it sells out, they go ahead and produce some more. It's not this same idea of just flooding it and just getting it out everywhere and who cares where it ends up. We're putting it out there. Nowadays, they're reining it in, they're tightening things up. What that means, less inventory. Less inventory means less to go to gray market. Less to gray market means they can't mark it down as much. Everything goes up. So even if you're being smart and you're shopping at discounters, which again, you probably should be for most fragrances that you're gonna pick up outside of like brand new things that haven't hit discounters, you're still not gonna save what you used to save years past, which has directly led to the rise of clone fragrances. You have a lot of brands out there who hate clones. They hate them so much. But the whole reason that they are as successful as they are now is because they're providing fragrances for a lot of times 20, 30, 40 bucks, on the high end like 50, that have quality that rivals and sometimes surpasses those fragrances that are triple, quadruple the price. And to beat it all, they usually have better performance, which is really important to a lot of people nowadays. So you have clone fragrances out here that are crushing because of that, and yet the prices keep on going up. So you have brands like Armaf, Lattafa, Al Haramain, Fragrance World, Dua, Alexandria, Montaigne, on and on and on and on, that can come out with fragrances using high quality ingredients, the same ingredients that those designer brands, niche brands are using, which again goes back to the IFRA, fragrance cost thing that I talked about before, how you could say, well, their cost to make the fragrance has gone up. That's why everything is more expensive. You can point directly to the clone fragrances and go, yeah, but because they do have a lot of tacky bottles, clone fragrances, but they also have some that look really, really high end, extremely nice, actually better than most other fragrances. So they've got a great presentation, pressurized atomizers, magnetic caps, the whole 9 yards, quality fragrance, great performance, and they can sell it to you for 40 bucks and make a profit. When they're doing that, it's hard to look at a niche brand charging $300, $400, $500, or a designer brand whose prices have gone up 30, 40% almost in like 3 years, and take them seriously. So the clone fragrances are almost like the counterpunch to those jacked up prices that we see right now all over the place. So is buying fragrances in 2025 indeed a scam? No, but it is easier to pay more than ever before, which is why it's important to look around, to shop around, to use codes to bring it down as much as you possibly can. If you see something has dropped in price that you've been keeping your eyes on and it's a really good price, that's the time to scoop it up. But in the short term, if people keep purchasing these, if they keep going for the higher prices, whether we're talking niche or designer, they're gonna keep creeping those prices up. They're only gonna start coming down once people stop purchasing fragrances that are a little overpriced. And again, that is why clone fragrances have taken off in such a huge way, because it's such a difference, and the difference keeps getting bigger. If somebody doesn't have a ton of money to spend, but they want to buy a nice fragrance, it's kind of difficult to say, well, this one is 30 and it smells 95% the same as this one, which is 150. Oops, I meant 170, you see. So there we go, guys. That is my opinion, along with numbers sourced directly from what I paid to what they are right now, numbers in black and white. And again, I encourage you, if you have old orders in your email or wherever, contrast and compare. Some of those have gone nuts. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.